committee. We are here today to host our marketing virtual workshop, and today's topic will be reviewed by our host, Ryan Hicks. He is going to explain to you the cadence of this workshops. So Ryan, why don't you take it over? And I hope that everyone enjoys today's workshop. And if this is the first one, we hope you come back. If you've come before and you're returning, thanks for coming back and keep on coming.
All right, I was muted. Okay, so thank you very much, Sherry, and thank you everybody for being here. My name is Ryan Hicks, as Sherry mentioned. I'm the managing director for a company called Franchise Supplier Network. Today is somehow already August 27th. The year is flying by, and it has been conference season, so it's busy season. We're entering planning for 2023. So it's a busy time, but also a great time because the franchise community is live and well. As for kind of the structure, as always, for these workshops, if you could go ahead and edit your name here on Zoom and put franchisor, franchisee, or supplier at the end of your name, that will help us as we go into the breakouts. And to do this, you will click the participants drop down, you will click edit, and then just add franchisor, franchisee, or supplier. As always, we have two topics for today's conversation. I will introduce those momentarily. We're gonna have the same format where we will pose the first topic, and then the lovely Marcella will put us into our breakout rooms. We will have just an open discussion. Would be great if everybody here could share some of the nuggets as it relates to each, because these are two items that you certainly come across and put a lot of mental power towards. And so be an active participant in that. And that's what makes these groups great, because the best ideas get the surface to the top. After that kind of first round, we're going to come back here. We are going to have the facilitator share some of the top takeaways from each group. And then we will do that a second time for the second topic. So by way of very quick introduction, this time I will actually have our facilitators go around the horn, state your name, your company, and say hello to the folks. And then after that, I'll introduce the topic. So we will start with, Brandi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brandi Kloostra, the Vice President of Digital Marketing at Franworth. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, Brandi. Thank you. Next, we have Michelle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Chirco. I'm the Marketing Director at ZBART, and I'm excited for our discussion.
As am I. Sherry, we already introduced ourselves. Sherry Fishman. I don't know if you need to introduce again, but go ahead.
Absolutely. Sherry Fishman, not only a chairperson of this committee, but I am CEO of Fishman PR. Glad to be here. Yes.
CEO. Andrea.
Hi, Andrea Duranchak. I am I run global enterprise for a company called Newflex, of which we have one franchise band, which is part of the Easy family of brands called Easy Hub.
Thank you, Andrea. And then we have Anna from Sign Gypsies.
Hi guys, I'm Anna Kajawa. As Ryan said, I'm with Sign Gypsies, yard greeting rental company, and I'm over marketing and our product sales. Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
You're good.
So the two topics for today, topic number one, what does a successful grand opening strategy or marketing playbook look like in today's landscape? This is definitely a meaty topic. It's a very important topic. The second one is cultivating productive supplier and franchisor partnerships. And I'll speak to that as we come back after the first round of discussions. So as it relates to the first topic for today, obviously getting franchisees off to a great start and to have a successful grand opening is mission critical. the franchisees that you bring into your system. They've invested time, money, energy. They have the dream in mind and the reasons behind why they decided to buy into your brand. They're excited about your brand. And so getting them launched in the right way creates the right momentum. It's also part of what they're buying into whenever they're awarded a franchise license. They're buying into the proven playbook that you have. And so as we break out into the discussion rooms, would love to have everybody here just share what success looks like. What have you found successful in your grand opening strategies? And the facilitators will help lead a kind of a spirited conversation on all things grand opening. And also share, I would encourage you to share any don'ts, because sometimes the mistakes that you've made in the past can be helpful for others to be able to hear, so that they don't make those same mistakes, or so they put a little bit more thought, maybe think a couple of levels deeper and refine it. So share what you have successes with, share any don'ts that you have. Also, don't hesitate to ask the group for, to expand deeper on something that they mention, or even for recommendations, etc. So having that said, hopefully, Marcella, you are ready to roll, but we are going to go ahead and break out into the first round of discussions.
Yes, we're ready. I'll send everybody in the rooms.
Perfecto. All right.
Hey, Ryan, I think.
Yeah, we will give it another second or two. Welcome back, everybody. Hope that your groups had good discussions, and eager to hear some of the top nuggets that were shared in each group. I feel like that was kind of a quick breakout, but let's go around the horn. We will start with Michelle to give feedback from the group.
All right, so we had great discussions. To start, it was really talking about mapping out your marketing plan and having it completely laid out, like, right as they sign almost, so that you can really start ramping up the advertising for the location and getting the word out as early as 6 months, even in advance. And then kind of as you're getting closer to that launch, it's becoming a member of your chamber and local groups that you can leverage to kind of get a face out in the community. And the other side of it was also holding that franchisee or that franchisee group accountable for their end of the bargain, and making sure that they're the face that the community sees when they think of the brand, that they're kind of going to the local businesses and getting the word out as much as possible, because you can rely on the franchisor and your regional teams that can help during the setup time, but really the people that are going to be in the location and kind of the face of that store need to be boots on the ground initiatives.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Andrea, we'll have you go next.
Oh, Michelle, you kill me. All right. So as we started off with, as Michelle said, you absolutely have to have, they're buying into a system. So right down to T-minus 30 days, you have to have that process. You have to have KPIs in place so that you're measuring every single tactic and activity. You have to have a feedback loop, and so that each person who opens up a new location can springboard off of the previous location. So just echoing what you said, Michelle. But in addition, there were some cool tactics that I think were shared also. Number one, from a PR standpoint, the beautiful thing about a franchise is that you're locally owned and operated. So to do lifestyle stories in addition to the business story on the individual and them as business owners, weaving them into the fabric of the community, making sure that you've captured hearts and minds of the mayor, the chamber, of the BNI, of locations that are next to you, so that you're using other people's brands to extend yours. We had a great idea, actually was taken off at Chick-fil-A, who gives away free, have a killer promotion, something that people are going to quote unquote line up on the door at the door for the day before, because they're so excited to open. Now Chick-fil-A apparently gives away 100 free meals for the year for the first 100 people. Maybe you don't have to go that grand, but what's that cool thing that's going to get people? And then radio, not dead, radio, have people go in, cajole the local DJs, bring your product to them, get them to talk to you about it, and maybe have them do an on-site if you're going to have an event for your grand opening. So those were just a few sound bites.
I like it. Thank you for sharing. Let's go to Brandy.
All right, we had a lot of really great conversation. The thing that kept coming up is to make the grand opening as simple as possible and to make sure, of course, the franchisee follows it. I think Ryan did a great job in explaining his business and how they have a 5-step process in the grand opening scheme of things. So he said, you know, first he sets up paid ads to help with brand awareness and really get the message out there in the community. He does have a construction business, so it's important for him to get into the field. So he mentioned he goes to the field and brings treats like cookies. So who doesn't like to get cookies? And that's definitely a memorable thing. And then, you know, he does the site visits, as I mentioned. And then the 4th step was LinkedIn automation tools to really start getting those types of referrals or referrals within the communities that the new business is opening. And then PR, of course, you know, having some sort of PR that's pushed out there in the local community to let people know. So I thought that was a good, simple way to, you know, have a successful grand opening. But aside from that, you know, we talked a lot about the timing of grand openings, specifically in the fitness and beauty space. It's important, and in a lot of businesses, it's important that the business owner is profitable as of day one. So we talked about a couple different timing as far as when to start the grand opening initiative. So we talked about 90 days out prior to pre-opening salons and studios, as well as there was another franchise. It actually, Lindsay with Athletic Republic, they talked about doing 10 weeks out. So, you know, it's, of course, the timing is dependent upon your brand and the needs of the business, but really, most importantly, is having a playbook that outlines what to do at each stage of the game. So, you know, say 30 to 60 days out, you start getting that digital presence, pushing things out in social to increase brand awareness and, you know, just promote that this new location is opening, to inform the community that, you know, you have a new store, studio, salon out there. And then from there, start the, you know, the paid campaigns where you're driving leads to the business. So again, what the day that the door opens, that franchisee has, you know, money coming in, has people potentially signing up for memberships to come into the studios, salons. So we went through quite a bit of information, but I think those are some of the key highlights. And really, omni-channel is important, you know, just pushing out the message that you're going to be in the community, in digital, in direct mail, and in PR.
Thank you, Brandy. We have Anna.
Hi, thanks, Ryan. We had great discussion too. A few of our panelists or in our room were kind of new to grand openings, hadn't done very many, but we also had some that were experienced and had shared some really great success stories. One of my favorites was Lori from Farrell's. She just talked about how they go around the community and they post signs of red X's at partnering businesses. So they approach these businesses that are local to them and they create a partnership there. There's some type of mutually beneficial service or thing that they're going to give back to them, so that when their customers come in and say, what's that red X outside your shop? They're like, oh, well, that's about this new fitness center that's opening. And so they're kind of primed and ready. And in the season that we all live in with, you know, virtual influencers having so much pull, you're creating your boots on the ground influencers, people that are already doing the face-to-face with the same customers that you're hoping to engage, and they're helping you launch your brand. And so that was one of the biggest takeaways. And then Monica, she also just talked about doing an ABC plan as far as your grand opening. You know, what's in your FDD? What are you including that is mandatory for them? And some market tiers are going to look very different, how far that dollar is going to spend. And so help them be familiar with where they are and be able to give them really great advice about what marketing and strategy and grand opening is going to work best. Is it a one-time event? Is it something you're planning out over a 3-month period? And so all of that discussion was just really great insight into making it work for where you are, know where you live, know how to capitalize on those relationships that are right there in front of you and can help work for your brand. You're muted.
Thank you, Anna. Last and certainly not least, we have Sherry Fishman.
Hold on. Hello, everybody. You guys did a fabulous job, I must say. From our perspective, we looked at the overall and we kept going back and forth about, how do we change this, since many of us haven't, we're just ramping up and looking at this very critical time of the year where we're looking at how we're going to change our budgets for 2023, and how we change the money back and forth, as far as suggestions of what this playbook looks like. So we talked about that at length, and I'm sure that our group really appreciates all the organization of all the CMOs that were on this call, because my focus in helping facilitating was the PR side. So we did talk a whole lot about the franchisee, and that the reason why they came to this decision to become a franchisee is all of the systems that are in place and what it is that we really need to do. So it's using that story and that narrative in the market and figuring out what works. So what we talked about really was not forgetting about not just the feet on the ground, as Anna said, of finding your own influencers, but actually finding influencers to help support your opening of your location, and also understanding that it's that franchisee and their story that is going to be the key to your success of the opening in the market. That be authentic to your brand. Being authentic to your brand is the person and the heart and soul of the reason why they became a franchisee. So to really use that and focus on that, and using that by really translating that from an influencer side, from a PR side, and not forgetting too about Google reviews, all these little kind of things that, because you guys talked about just about everything. The only other thing that we did is the importance of pop-ups and for product sampling, or some sort of an experiential opportunity to get them excited about the brand coming into the market.
Thank you very much, Sherry. We had a lot of really good discussions, and I'm a big fan of this story and what I call the reason for being, because people connect with that. We will shift over to our second topic. The second topic that we will be discussing is cultivating productive supplier and franchisor partnerships. This is obviously an important topic because your supplier partners, your vendors, they are really an extension of your brand. Oftentimes, suppliers and vendors help you build the integrated strategy, and both play an important part of and help optimize your systems, your processes. Supplier partners, vendor partners can touch really all sides of the business. It's important to make the right selection for the right partners to work with, because walking that back is a very friction heavy thing, and it can create some not so good experiences and all the rest. And, systems sometimes outgrow suppliers, and, it's perfectly fine to make changes when changes are needed. It's best to make those in a measurable way, in a cautious way, but also when it's needed. And so looking forward to hearing what the group has to say on this topic. I'll share briefly, because I think we have another minute and we're good on time. Something that I like to know, if you think back to some of the most iconic franchise brands, so like the first one that comes to mind is McDonald's. Ray Kroc was actually a supplier. It's actually how he discovered the brand. And so supplier partners, if there's a three-prong relationship, the franchisor, the franchisee, I think the third prong is really the suppliers. And when all of those are working in unison, to coin a kind of a phrase that I've learned from some other folks in franchising, it creates a flywheel. It creates that positive momentum, and then ultimately where the brand takes a life bigger than it bigger than itself, essentially. And you want that flywheel, and suppliers are a very important part of that. So we will go ahead and break out into the discussion breakout rooms, and I will toss it over to Marcella for us to discuss cultivating productive supplier franchisor partnerships. All right, welcome back, everybody. We will give it just another second for folks to join. Okay, cool. So we will go around the horn and get the top takeaways from each group. I know that our group had a very robust conversation, so looking forward to hearing some of the top nuggets. Let's switch it up, and we will start first this time with Anna.
Hi guys. Yeah, we had great conversation. We had a smaller group this time, so we got a lot of time to just hash everything out. But really, some of the key takeaways were just when you have a model with a supplier that you are launching for all of your locations or your owners, just that you can reproduce it and be successful. And that marketing playbook that really goes back to our first session with the proven strategy that you can say this worked because we've seen it work time and time again. These are suppliers that we have good relationship with. We can trust them. But then when you're bringing in those new suppliers, the vetting process, and just how you present that along with your grand opening just is such a key. And your reps, let's see, I just saw Chris, he was talking about how they have the reps of their suppliers that come to some of their grand opening launches, because the reps are the ones that want to sell this brand or their product just as much as you do. And so having them there on the ground to really sell and explain what they love about their product just has been a huge key factor for them. And I'm going to go back to Chris too. I told him I would use this quote here, but he was talking about when you have bad suppliers, maybe it's something you've held on to for a long time because it worked, but it's about, when you've got a bad group of friends and you've got to let them go. They're your comfort zone, but you know that they're bad for you. And so when you can finally make that break and move on to what's going to be a better fit for your company, you're going to have a lot of angry people at you at first because everyone hates change and they don't like being made to adapt to a new system or a new supplier. But that if it's in the best interest for everybody, everyone else is going to be so much better off on the back end. So great group. We had great conversations. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Anna. Let's go to Andrea.
Okay, yeah, we had a terrific group as well. We started off just talking about the importance of the supplier understanding holistically the business, not just where they fit into the business, their component, because sometimes the franchisor doesn't know that they need to get to know each other. The supplier needs to understand holistically the overall strategy, the goals and objectives of the business, where they are now and where they expect to be in the future. As the supplier may be able to add value in different areas. Very important was brought up the topic of having a human relationship with the supplier. They really become a partner. Oftentimes, you might, when you're signing an agreement with a supplier, have the bios and get to know the team to serve, because you're securing a lot more than just the name or the plaque on the door. You're securing the people, and that human factor is incredibly important. So not just to start off your meeting with getting to business, but getting to know that person and caring about that person. We talked about the importance also of suppliers getting to know each other. So not keeping your supplier in a silo, that supplier, your digital agency should get to know your PR agency, who should get to know your print agency, who should get to know your the folks who are doing your interior design and telephony, because there's a benefit in doing that. They can feed off each other and enhance each other's performance. And then that led to inviting your suppliers to, whether it's your monthly virtual meeting with your franchisees, and having that supplier present. There's also a benefit in that was brought up, in that the supplier can do a little work for you in creating the presentation. or inviting the supplier to your annual meeting, whether it's in person or virtual. That gives the supplier the opportunity to meet the other franchisees, but also to meet the other suppliers. Really just this whole notion of being respectful and forming a partnership, because when you form a partnership, there can be a real synergy that happens there, and 1 + 1 becomes 4 and not 2. So we had a really nice and lively dialogue. Thank you to the people who are in my room.
Very excellent points. And I like your math. That's beautiful when that happens. Let's go to Michelle.
All right. A lot has already been mentioned, but I'm going to keep going and elaborate. So obviously, getting to know your supplier, getting to know them, getting to know you as the franchisor, and then really so they can be an extension of your company, so that when they are putting information out and they are putting advertising out for you, it's like an arm of you. It basically feels like you're doing it. In the same vein, when you find that supplier, when you're looking, finding someone that meets your culture and is the best fit, as Ryan had mentioned, is the best fit for you based on culture and your values and what your mission is and how you want to work together. It's so important. Involving them in strategy from the jump is key. And setting those expectations early of what is expected on both sides lends to a healthy relationship, so there's no surprises on either side either. And then really that supplier being an educator for you. So like Andrea mentioned, going to the conferences and going to meetings and things like that, and having that supplier have the moment to educate the franchisees and even educate others at, the franchisor level, what they're doing for you, how they're going to do it, what the effects are going to be. So no one's in the dark and everyone, can openly discuss how this is working. And getting to know the team all the way. We talked a lot about how often you bring on new suppliers, and it's not just the sales guy from the supplier and the marketing contact from the franchisor. It often involves many IT people, sometimes sales and operations. You really have to get a huge group in. So starting that early, so you can get to know both sides early on, so that later when you have to have those calls or you have to have that connection between both ITs or both operations, it's not like they're meeting for the first time.
Very well said, Michelle. Let's call on Brandy.
All right, we had a great group talk through a lot of different aspects of just successful partnerships. I think the 3 things that came out loud and clear in the conversation is first is communication is key to success with your partners, and having regular meetings, whether that be bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly meetings to touch on what it is that is important for the business. But we also talked about, like, in regards to the communication cadence, initially when you start a new partnership, it's typically best practice to meet daily, at least for the first month, until you are aligned 100% on everything as far as your deliverables and expectations. So it's kind of like I said, dating. In the beginning, you're going to be meeting a lot with a new partner. The second thing is sharing your goals and expectations. So as a franchisor, just like you would do with your team, it's important to share the goals for the year and what you're expecting from that particular partner, so they know when they're delivering and they know what success looks like. So an example could be, we want to increase lead flow by 15% by the end of this year. This is the component that you're going to take on and the tactic that you're going to implement to impact that number. So in those types of things, being very specific about your goals and helping the supplier understand those, it just is a big piece of success. And then the last is around relationships. I think everyone has mentioned it here. I know Michael from Freeway Insurance said, really, I just realized this is all about relationships, and that is what it is all about, because the team is the partner vendor is an extension of your team, and you should really get to know them and share successes together. If you can, break bread, have dinner at one point, maybe at least once a year if this is a partner that you're working with on a regular basis. So those are a couple things that came out. I know the other piece, as far as from a franchisor standpoint, what we can do as franchisors to make the partnerships more successful is, have the standards in place in regards to your brand initiatives, your guidelines, the rules of communication, and really just have kind of that buttoned up. I know Tony with Deliver Media mentioned that Domino's does a great job with that, with campaigns. They'll say, here's what we have, here's how you can communicate it. And that really helps the partner, give the flexibility, but keep the reins in the, keep the brand standards in place that are needed to really, just execute on things. So that's kind of a summary of what we talked about.
Thank you, Brandi. Last but not least, Sherry Fishman. And please also, if there's any announcements, include that. I know we are at our time now.
Hello, everybody. I know we're at the top of the hour, and I wanted to thank everybody in my group. We had a really lively conversation. You guys did a job of covering it all. One thing, we did talk about relationship, but with relationships with your suppliers, it goes without saying that it's relationship, that building that relationship and being able to be always open, one of our core values, being transparent with your supplier. If they're not doing a good job or they are doing a good job, to let them know so they can do more of what they're doing well and less of what they're not, to make that. And in addition to that, that's how together you build that trust, because if we can't fix it unless we know about it. Okay, that's just something to learn. The other thing is when you do hire that great supplier that you want and you've gone through the vetting process, please, 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 I urge you to have someone who is the conduit, who can make decisions or can get to the right person to get that decision made. So there are no delays. You need that contact person internally for the supplier to work with, to manage that supplier, to make sure the supplier is doing a good job and has the opportunity to do a good job. This is how you build a strong relationship. This is how you extend and build your brand. I hope that everybody enjoyed your workshop. Thank you, all facilitators, all attendees. Thank you, Ryan. And I know there's some chatter about Nashville. I hope that if you haven't signed up, or I hope many of you have signed up and are going to Nashville for the Emerging Brand Conference. Have a wonderful rest of your day.